difficult. Sometimes I have 40 pages of dialogue to go to for the week, and I was like, oh, yeah, I got so much to memorize this week. But mostly, I mean, I connected with him as a family man, so I understood that. And then really getting to understand the world that he lived in. So I watched a lot of documentaries on the political climate, and you know, watching Elliot Spitzer documentary, I kind of took a lot from him because I felt like Elliot Spitzer, you know, went up against a lot of giants and didn't back down, and there was a tenaciousness to him as well. So a lot of documentaries, just getting the climate of what the show is dealing with.
Well, there's a scene in the first episode, and I won't spoil it, but something very bad happens, and it's a powerful scene, and we see it in the second episode, how your character is dealing with it. In filming that scene, like, what were your thought process going through that scene? It's with
yes,
Gentry.
It's Gentry. Are you talking about the second episode, or when I first see
At the very end of the first episode,
Yeah.
that scene where
Yes. What was my thought process when I saw it happen, or what was my thought process when I was
because it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, that, you know, is complete shock and awe when something like that happens, and so thankfully I actually got to see a lot of the playback that they actually used. They had a dummy actually that got hit by the car, and so for that, when you're playing shock and awe, you know, I was reacting off of what was happening, but then in the second episode of what, you know, dealing with it, because then after the shock happens, then it starts to sink in, and then you start to, I think there was a lot of guilt.
Yeah.
You know,
I could see that your character was internalizing it a little bit.
And it was, and I think he took a lot of responsibility for that, and so it kind of hit him hard. You know, it's one of those nights that becomes sleepless easily, because how can you sleep after, you know, something happens to somebody that you are responsible for, you know, and then how do you correct that and make that right? And I think that becomes part of his drive, you know, that when because of that responsibility, it's like, okay, I can't just turn a blind eye to this, you know, even if I want to. There's too much at risk, and people have it's already affected people.
Exactly.
When you knew Nurse Jackie was going to be ending, were you hoping to get on another show this quickly?
You know, I didn't know that Nurse Jackie was ending when I took the show. My seventh, we signed a contract for 7 years, and my 7th year was coming up, and as much as I enjoyed Nurse Jackie, I was kind of itching to do something different. So I asked them, hey, would you mind if I came in and did part of the 7th season and looked to do another show, and they were nice enough to let me go and do that. So I had shot the pilot of Odyssey, and then it had gotten picked up, and then I found out that was the 7th season. So it was kind of perfect timing, actually, because, you know, you take a risk. I mean, Odyssey could not have went, and Nurse Jackie could have went another 3 years, and you never know. But it kind of worked out in this case. And what's ironic is that they're both on Sunday nights now. So, you know, Sunday nights I'll be on 9:30 to 10 on Showtime, and then 10 to 11 on Odyssey. And they're such completely different characters that I think it'd be fun to actually tune in and watch Coop, and then switch over to Nurse Jackie and see a character that's so different.
So as far as the role, when you were offered the role and you looked at the script, what was the one thing that stood out to you as to why you wanted to accept this role?
Well, I think that the role actually scared me a little, you know, and I tend to want to do things that scare me, and in a lot of ways. And one, when I got the script, I wasn't sure. I hadn't played a role like that before, so I thought, can I do this, you know? And I'm glad I didn't have to audition, because if I had to audition, I probably wouldn't have gotten it, you know, because I tend to really work hard at forming the characters when I get the role, and sometimes you get a piece of paper and you're like, you have to go and improve that you can play this role with very little information and very little time to prepare that character. So thankfully, Peter Horton met with me, and he said, I'm a big fan, I want you to do this. And I sat down, and I took that offer very seriously, and I looked at it and I thought, well, coming off of doing a fantasy movie like Twilight and coming off of a comedy, I wanted to move more towards drama, and this is very heavy dramatic stuff. I wasn't a big political person, so but then I really gravitated towards the conspiracy element, you know, and that was an exciting adventure. When I looked at that, it was the thriller aspect of being a conspiracy thriller kind of is what really hooked me on it, and then I did all the research of getting into that world, stuff that I hadn't known before. You know, I hadn't known much about the protesters on Wall Street, and you know, I hadn't known much about, you know, that kind of political world. So I had to wrap my head around that and then form that character.
Did you talk to Anna much throughout the production, even though your stories are very separate?
We texted each other once in a while, because I always had the directors first, and then they would go over to her unit. So she'd be like, "How was the director?" And I'd be like, "Fantastic." And then once in a while, like, she'd send me a picture from Morocco, and it actually felt like Odell Ballard was like, you know, on my phone, because she's this mysterious kind of figure that's way off in the distance that you know. So we would text back and forth once in a while, and we would trade war stories, because she got beat up a lot on that, and I ended up getting 17 stitches myself during a scene. I hit my head on a car door, and I had to get 17 stitches in my forehead. So we were trading like wound stories. She's like, "I got my cornea scratched today." I was like, "I got 17 stitches."
I win.
Yeah.
Were you happy with the end of Coop's story on Nurse Jackie?
Yeah, I think it was very, you know, I love that show, and it was such a tight family, and you know, such a fun character to play, and I feel like he definitely got a good ending for his storyline. Which I didn't know. You know, you go into it and you're like, oh, this is the last season, and you're hopeful that you get a good, you know, finale and a good finish. And there's episode 5 is called Coop Out, and that's my finale episode, and I hope people enjoyed it as much as I. It was nice. It was a good way to say goodbye to the cast through my character. You know, I got to actually say goodbye to the cast through my character, which was nice.
Well, yeah, I mean, you pretty much felt them up the whole 6, 7 seasons.
Yeah.
Coop's nervous tics. That's one of the little quirks about your character that I found so interesting, because it just happens like all of a sudden, like when he got nervous or something, and he would just reach out and grab.
Yeah, that was fun. I mean, they used it sparingly, which is kind of nice.
Yeah,
didn't
it
get
wasn't
too
overly
gimmicky,
done.
But you know, as an actor playing it, you get uncomfortable, because you're like, yeah, I don't want to touch your boob
Yeah.
in rehearsals, because I don't want you to go home sore.
Yeah.
But you know, it was such a. I mean, that character was so fun to play, because he was like a kid in a 40-year-old body. And he had his you know, he just didn't have a filter, so he never meant any harm to anybody. But the things that would come out of his mouth sometimes, it's just like socially not.
He had good intentions.
Yeah, he had good
just
intentions.
The delivery wasn't quite there all the time.
Exactly.
After Breaking Dawn Part 2, when Carlisle died,
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the fan reaction to that?
I did, because there were so many gasps in the audience, and you know, the only thing I was bummed about when I read the script was everybody got to have this battle royale with all these people. I was like, oh man, I don't get to have all that action stuff. So as an actor, it wasn't as fun, because you know, I was the first one that was offed, and then all of a sudden everybody has this great action sequence, and I was kind of bummed that I didn't get to do more action stuff. But when I saw the audience reaction, I was like, it was so powerful that I was glad to have it.
Yeah, because that doesn't happen in the book.
Yeah.
Are Twilight fans still prominent with you?
Yes, yeah, there was some here today. Actually, and, they're always so supportive, and there's so much love for those books and those movies that I hope it never dies down. I mean, I've grown to become fond of fans too, and over the years I've been like, oh, you cut your hair, like, you know, it becomes like a family. You get to know them, you know. So they're familiar faces by now, and I hope that they continue to, you know, watch and grow with my career.
You guys, I'm gonna have to pull. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you guys so much. I hope you continue watching. And